Hello and welcome to the show. We are here today with a Q&A video, a special video to finish the week-long sort of throwback, whatever you want to call it, celebration for the 10 years of FailRace. It's been quite a while since I've done a Q&A. I think was it 250,000 subscribers I did one? I think, maybe. It's a long time ago now. So, yeah, I thought we'd go back and do this. Took some questions from Twitter, from the comment section on the King of the Hill video, I believe it was. Put up there. I'm afraid I can't answer everything because there was a huge number of them. I've tried to answer the most popular ones, some interesting ones, and so on. Hopefully it will be interesting. I think there'll be some Gran Turismo Sport footage in the background of some races on there, so you can watch some cars going while I talk general nonsense. First of all, let's start with the common one, probably the most common one about my real-life cars, if you will. I have three. I still have all three of them. I have an Audi RS6, I have a 1965 Plymouth Fury, and I have a Lexus GS 300. The Audi is perfectly fine, and I drive, that's the everyday car. The Fury and Lexus currently are, well, the Lexus doesn't work, it's got a drain on the battery, but that is going to be fixed up, and the Fury is still in need of some work. A combination of COVID and everything shutting and personal life stuff has meant that I haven't done what I wanted to with those vehicles as of yet. Hopefully this summer, as things are now starting to open back up and things are a little bit better, then there is going to be possibilities for more stuff. There are talks of various ideas. Quite what's going to happen, I'm not 100% sure yet, and who knows what might happen with everything shutting down. Hopefully it won't, but you know. So it's been a little bit of a mess, not quite gone to plan at all with any of that stuff. These things do happen. However, yeah, at the moment, in a better position now than a couple of months ago to continue on with that. Another very, very common question, if you will, was about how did my channel start, the name came from, my love of cars and everything. I've covered some of this before, I think, but I'll go over again just for more recent viewers and so on, or if you haven't seen or heard about it from previous. The channel started, I mean, I've always loved cars. Okay, this started with that one. I love cars for as long as I can remember. I think I told the story before, but, as a kid growing up, my parents would put on Motorsport instead of, like, cartoons or whatever for me to watch. I said they put that on sometimes, and I enjoyed watching that more than anything else, so they kind of stuck with putting that on. So I've always loved cars, always loved Motorsport, always wanted to do something with cars, for many years. Wanted to be a Top Gear presenter like most people have, and, you don't really get the opportunity to do that. However, you could with games, and it was a combination, really. I tended to play, long before I did videos, I tended to play games in the way that I make videos. I liked to come up with silly things to do with them, do things slightly differently, do things slightly wonky, try and make, especially vehicles, of course, do stuff that they perhaps shouldn't normally do. And I'd started watching a lot of, I'd started watching like gaming YouTube stuff. Yogscast and I guess Rooster Teeth were, I say, main inspiration, but I started watching a lot of their videos and I saw how they used games to create stories and to create this content, and I sort of took that idea into what I did with racing games, and that's how it started. It was a case of, we can do racing games, we can do challenges, we can do different things with them that you wouldn't perhaps normally do, and it gradually grew from there. Top Gear, of course, is a very big inspiration for it, because that's kind of the love of challenges and love of just doing something a little bit differently with all that. So that is where it came from. The name FailRace itself was, I mean, the very initial idea, the very first videos were the FailRace episodes, the things going wrong in racing games, essentially. That was where it was, and that was just a name I came up with that fit, and it's just stuck from there on out. That's it. That's all there is really to it. Nothing major, massively clever. It worked and carried on with it, basically. As far as videos go, another very common question is, when am I going back to streaming? There's no timeline for it, but I do hope to go back to streaming at some point. Streaming takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of time, and as of late, I had to kind of choose something to focus on, and the YouTube videos were what I chose to. Hopefully we'll be able to go back to streaming. It might not go straight back to a full schedule or something like that. It is very difficult. However, hopefully not too crazy distant future, we will see some more of that. But I don't have a specific time of this is when it's going to happen. Fingers crossed, it won't be too long until it can start going back to some of that. I've missed playing RimWorld, if I'm honest. that's the main draw for me. I don't care about racing games, I don't want to play RimWorld again. But yeah. They're not gone for good, just on a temporary break, if you like. Next question, again along the lines of the video. So I saw various versions of this. Scotty and Dejaban also asking again parts of this about what video was the most overachieving video I did, what was the most underachieving video, and if I could bring back a series or run a series in which it was guaranteed to be successful, or didn't matter what the view numbers were, what would I do? When it comes to overachieving videos, I always go back to, there was a Jump the Canyon video I did on Beam. I think I feel like I might have talked about these before, but it's like, I know these stories, I just don't always remember if I've said them, or when I've said them. Anyway, there's Jump the Canyon series. It was like a 2-part little mini-series I did on Beam. It was using a canyon map, funnily enough, by the name, that had a very, very large jump. And it was a high-speed jump that, if taken as part of a circuit, you kind of landed it really nicely and could carry on the lap. And the whole the mini-series was about taking different cars, and from a fixed start point, could the car go quick enough to make the jump? It was a really simple idea. It was just, could this car make a jump? It was a really simple idea that did incredibly, incredibly well. Okay, not quite survive the hunt or whatever, but incredibly well for the time and for the type of video it was. Because that video was, like, the idea for that video was made up in like 10 minutes. The whole idea of that was because I needed a video for a day and I had nothing at that point. Nothing ready to go, nothing prepared, no specific ideas to film. I needed an idea, and I don't even know how I ended up coming up with this one. I guess sometimes when I'm out of ideas for videos, this kind of goes to another thing people talk about, like creativity side of things. How do I come up with challenges? So sometimes at the moment, I'm quite good for ideas. I've got a big list of stuff that I want to be filming, and so on. I've got a big backlog of GTA 5 stuff, which is wonderful. But sometimes when I'm struggling for creativity, when I'm struggling for ideas, it'll be a case of, alright, let's load up a game and play. And you never know what you're going to come up across, but you never know what you're gonna think of while doing it, because sometimes just playing a game doesn't even have to be a racing game. Sometimes just playing some games, things happen that then start the whole, oh well, we could do this with a car, and then you kind of like gradually builds upon an idea, and then you could form a challenge or a series. Not often a series, but you can come up with ideas and you try to take it from there. So it was just one of those. I loaded up Beam because Beam is a good game to go for if I'm struggling for ideas, because it's a big sandbox. You can kind of fart around and see what happens. And I just loaded up Beam and was messing around with the various mods that I had, and it came across that it happened to be there was a jump, and there was a nice like marker that you could use for a start line, and the distance was in such a way that a good number of cars could make it, but cars you weren't guaranteed to make it, weren't guaranteed to fail. So it happened to be that this was a perfect storm of things that came together, and I didn't expect the video to do anything, not really, and then it did. So. Yeah, I mean, there's weird stories. I say weird stories as well. There's odd videos that have gone out and been fairly popular. I said, been relatively successful, and then nothing, and then all of a sudden YouTube starts to recommend it, and it goes ridiculously popular. There's a couple of those. There's a Assetto Corsa Formula 1 car doing a rally stage that came out, was relatively popular for a little bit. And then, like all videos, it spikes for the first couple of days, then dies away slowly. It dies away fairly quickly, and then levels off at like a couple of views a day. And this one did that, which was normal. It was relatively successful for the time. And then, like 2 years later, it suddenly gets 200,000 views in a month. And it's like, I don't understand that. That's more YouTube than actual video. Although a lot of that can also be YouTube. It's difficult to tell, but Jump the Canyon is always the video that was perhaps one of the most surprising, massively successful videos. As far as the underachieving videos go, I mean, there's stuff that's been fun to do that I kind of knew wasn't going to be as popular, especially like non-GTA or Forza stuff. You kind of go into that knowing this is probably not going to do as well. I'll do it because I enjoy the game. I think the one that disappoints me, not because I was disappointed with the video, but the one that I wish I'd always done better, was the first Festival of Corners. It was the Assetto Corsa Time Attack stage that I spent a long time on that video. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not very good with that kind of things, and trying to do all the on-screen graphics, yeah, I'm not great with it. It took a long time to do. I guess I'm a little better now. I'm just not a graphics designer, basically. It took me ages to put all of that together and finding the mods and getting it all working and doing the driving, and I loved the result. And the people that watched it, everyone really liked it that watched it. Just didn't do particularly well. You know, did YouTube not recommend it? Did people just not as interested? I don't know. I have no idea on it. It's just, yeah, that again, and that is always the one that, like, I love that video, and it's still one of my favourite videos I've ever made in terms of what it was. But I wish it had done better in some regards. As I said, the quality of the video I was happy with. Just, yeah, YouTube things. And as far as if I could do a series in which views didn't matter, one of the ones that I always liked to do, and what it's something a little bit more difficult to do, but the like recreating of a race series. We did this back on Forza Motorsport 7, which was a curse of a game. No videos ever did well on Forza 7, sadly. And that was like, you know, what if DTM didn't become the crazy silhouette cars that they are at the moment, or what if there was a modern IMSA GTO category, and all of that kind of thing. I loved doing that. That was one of my favourite things to do, and I would love to do that again, hopefully with a new Forza Motorsport and a load more cars and a load more options. You can play around more with it, and I'd hope it would be popular. But that series took so long to build the cars for and do everything for, and just wasn't. Part of that, I think, was Forza Motorsport 7 just didn't do well on YouTube. Because I think the basic idea is good if you do it right. But yeah, so that would be the one. I would love to be able to do that, create custom championships or some classes, either based on a modernised of an old one, or what if it had been different. That sort of stuff. I love doing that, and I think that would be the series that I would go for. Another very, very popular question, or again varying wordings of it, but basically, who has been the longest serving of the filming members? Of course, we have a fairly sizable filming crew, which is fantastic. That will take part in GTA or Forza or whatever it might be that we race in, and this has been going on for, well, funnily enough, quite a while. I don't know is the answer exactly as to who is the oldest serving filming member. Over time, you know, the crew will gradually change. New people will join, people will leave, they get busy with work, and so on and so forth. Which, of course, absolutely fair enough. I think. Certainly, Aaron is one of the longest, I guess, kind of active members that I know. I don't remember at what point they joined the rest of the filming group. I can't remember exactly. Aaron has certainly been around for a very, very long time, as has Ninetales, who went by a different game tag early on. I believe Stevie has been around for a very long time as well. In this one, I don't know the actual answer. I think they're some of the longest serving of the filming members. This has been, you know, a great many years. So yeah, something around there. But I can't actually give you a complete solid answer on that one. I don't even know where I begin to look to try and find that one. So there we go. Now the next question, again from a load of people, is would I do more collaborations with other YouTubers, and who would I like to collaborate with? Yeah, I would. They are sometimes difficult to set up. They can take a lot of effort and a lot of, especially faffing around with time zones and games on different consoles and platforms and all of that kind of thing. I mean, personally, I'd love to work with the Yogscast some more. I'd love to work like Yogscast and Let's Play / Roosty, all of that, because I mean, I grew up watching all their videos, but a lot of the inspiration for why I started doing what I did came from them. I'd love to collaborate with Spiffing Brit as well. These videos are fantastic. Someone more British than me, and that is seriously impressive. You can find someone more British than me. So yeah, I would love to work with them. There is certainly potential, shall we say, for some more collaborations in the future, especially with GTA 5 stuff. There is no specific plans at this very, very moment in time. However, that's not to say that it's not going to change in the future. I have some ideas. I'm not going to say anything because I don't know what we can pull off. But hopefully, fingers crossed, there may be potential for more collaborations. Whether it be with Survive the Hunt, whether it be with other stuff, I don't know. But yeah, I like doing them. They're good fun. As I said, they're time-consuming. It can be a bit of a faff to set up and get everything going. But if it goes right, then they're fantastic fun. So yeah, fingers crossed. It might not be impossible. That's the hope. Again, another common question, this one. My favourite YouTube experience, if you like. Again, paraphrasing a little bit on this one. But I've been fortunate, up until, well, last year when everything shut, to get to take part in some very, very cool stuff. Have done all sorts of bits and pieces. Not just, well, I say not just in terms of gaming, but some, I guess, like sort of real life stuff and so on. When a set of course was coming out on console, I got to drive a Nissan GTR around the Vallelunga circuit. That was cool. It's only a couple of laps, but that was awesome, undoubtedly. I still think my favourite of the lot was the Ranger Raptor. Getting to drive that truck. I mean, like, driving the truck off-road was really cool. I'd never done off-road driving before. Like, driving through the trails and everything was really, really good fun. Don't get me wrong. It's quite impressive. For somebody who's not done any off-road driving ever, I should point that, put it into some context. For somebody who's never done any off-road driving at all, doing that stuff was really cool. But it was just the ability to take them into a field and prat around like I would in a video game, if you like. There was like just launching off a jump and doing a race against tar. It was really, really good fun. I think that would have to be up there. I think that might have to be, as far as events go, that sort of stuff. Another kind of side to this one is when I bought my RX-8. When I bought that was the first car that I bought entirely with YouTube money, and I don't know. There's something about that whole experience about that buying that car and everything this is kind of surreal. That I've got a Mazda RX-8 that's been earned, if you will, from making videos on the internet. So that was also really, really cool. I mean, that's something that can never be beaten. It can never be repeated again, if you like, that very first one. So yeah, they're kind of two very different sorts of experiences. I don't know how on earth I'd ever rate them, but yeah, those two, very, very cool indeed. Again, another very popular question. This one was about, would I do real-life motorsport commentary? Would I like to? Is it something I'm interested in? And yes, absolutely. I would love to do motorsport commentary. I did a tiny little bit for the Formula E event a few weeks or months ago. I don't know. Time is different when you do YouTube. I don't keep track of the days of the week. Like, a weekend doesn't matter to me unless there's racing on, I guess. Then you kind of do. But I don't know however many weeks it was ago. Did the Formula E commentary for the final of their esports championship, and that was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. That was a surreal experience in some ways because, of course, it's like a proper TV set and all of that, and I'm not used to that. I sit in an office that is desperately in need of a tidy, if I'm perfectly honest with you. And yeah, to be doing actual commentary in, well, kind of like a booth thing that they had set up for that one, alongside Jack Nicholls, who is a commentator who I've heard commentate on Formula E and motorsport for many years. Is a bit weird, but really cool. So yes, I'd love to. I don't know how on earth you'd ever go about getting into it. I mean, whether it be real life motorsport, whether it be esport commentary, it would be good fun. I do enjoy doing that side of things. It's slightly different to the videos that I do, of course, and I have a certain style that might not be compatible with everything, but you'd learn. And yeah, I would love to do actual commentary as and when possibly maybe opportunities arise. There are various time constraints, of course, with all of that, but yeah, given the opportunity, I would absolutely love to do it. Whether it's something that will ever happen, whether it's something that I'll ever get the opportunity, I do not know, but like I say, live in hope. Yeah, I would 100% give it a try if the opportunity arose, shall we say. Next question, again this one from lots of people, about the cats. Yes, I have 3 cats. I have a twat bag called Abaddon, who is a kitten. I have Castiel, who is the quietest, shy, lovely cat in the world, and then I have Eve, who is fat. She is a fat cat. I'm trying to, well, diet her, essentially. She is a fat cat, but she is very silly and also a very lovely cat. Yeah, they do cause chaos. I mean, you heard the other day with one of these throwback videos, Abaddon had managed to come into the office, nudged the door shut, and then got stuck in the office and then was meowing to be let out because the twat bag had locked himself in. Or shut himself in, not locked, but you know what I mean. And a lot of people wanted to see a cat cam. It's something I've wanted to do for a while. The difficulty I have, that the size and shape and organisation of my office works for what I do in terms of work, but in terms of trying to put a camera in one place to film cat shenanigans, I don't actually think I could, even assuming I could wire it all in properly. So I'd have to have multiple. I can guarantee you, if I put the camera to the bit that the cat caused chaos in yesterday, it will not see what chaos goes on today, or whenever there's filming, it just won't. So yeah, there's something that I wanted to do. It's something that I've never quite had the time to sit down and properly figure out and do. Yeah, it is not, again, it's not impossible. I do want to get it working. It's going to take a lot of figuring out. Might have to run a couple of cameras maybe. Or, you see, the other thing I do is I move my office around a lot, and I'm never happy with how it's set, so I keep changing it, and just as the cats get used to one layout, and I figure out one point they're going to cause chaos, I move it, because I figured out a better way of doing something, and then it all changed. basically, yes, a cat cam would be cool if I can figure out how to get it working in a way that is going to be good and is going to actually see what you want rather than just like a tail shoot past and not actually see whatever chaos. Then, yeah, again, it's one of those that's not impossible if I can figure out how to make it all work sensibly. I would like to do it because, yes, they always got chaos. In fact, as recording this, the first take on this, I had to stop after a minute because Abaddon was batting at the curtains. I've got aircon unit set up with a vent going out the window, and I've tried to block it off so the cats can't get out the window, and Abaddon was batting at the curtain that was blocking it and was pulling it apart and almost knocked the vent off. So yeah, the door's shut so the cats are out of here at the moment because Abaddon was being a kitten. There's always chaos. There's never a dull day with them lots. But yes, I would like to, and fingers crossed, to get something working, but it probably won't be quite what you want until I can figure out a good system. Right, so on to the more specific questions. Gliska up first with one, asking, what's my most unpopular gaming/car opinion? This is actually a difficult one. It's a good question. Gaming-wise, I don't know if I hold any particular unpopular opinions. I can't think of anything that I would say about gaming, whatever, that would be massively unpopular. As far as cars go, I can't think of too many. The one that came to mind was, I do not hate the first generation Porsche Panamera that a lot of people absolutely despise. They call it a hideous thing, and I don't. I wouldn't say it was my favourite car. Yes, the later ones were nice, but I never hated the first gen Panamera. I wouldn't have bought one personally, no, but I didn't think it was an awful car or an awful looking car. I think that's the one that's probably the one that would be the most controversial. Apparently, I'm not all of that. I mean, I like muscle cars and everything, which and I like oval racing, which over in Europe is sometimes frowned upon by, I say, by strange people. I don't know how you can not enjoy that sort of stuff. It's different, but I guess that also might count. But yeah, probably the Panamera is more is more controversial. Foxy up next was asking, what game would I remaster? So if I could go back and choose a game to have a remaster version of, what would it be? That is difficult because there's a lot. There's a lot of games that I would love to see a remaster version. Of course, Forza Motorsport 4 put onto an Xbox One remastered version of that. That would be very, very cool. Enthusia, I would love to see a remastered modern version of that. That is still to this day one of my favourite of the classic racing games when I've gone back and played it. Because of the crazy unlock system, it was a really good driving game as well for the time. Incredibly advanced, really, for the era. In many ways, more sophisticated kind of physics engine than Gran Turismo, but it ended up being nowhere near as popular, which is a shame. But yeah, Enthusia would also be very high up on that list, but the one that would win it would be Tokka Race Driver. Tokka Race Driver, to me, still has the best single-player racing of any game. Full stop. I don't think there is any game that's done a single-player career mode as well as Tokka Race Driver did. Project Cars 2 kind of did a similar thing, but it was never quite as... It never, I say, flowed quite as nicely. Tokka Race Driver was so good because you started your career off in a low form of motorsport. I can't remember where it started, if I'm honest, Clio's maybe, or something along those lines. And you went up the ranks, but you didn't go up the ranks necessarily in the same order as everybody else because you got contract offers with different teams. And I always just remember it was great fun at the end of the season. You know, you could go race in oval racing, you could go race for supercars, DTM, British touring cars, open-wheeled vehicles. I can't remember all of them in it, if I'm honest with you. But that career progression, it was the way that it felt like an actual racing career. Yes, the later Tokka games had more championships in them. Race Driver 2 and 3 had incredible number of championships, do not get me wrong, but the progression was never felt as much of a career. No game has ever felt as much of a career as the original Tokka Race Driver, to me, at least. Yeah, Project Cars kind of did a similar thing, but it wasn't as, I didn't feel it as well executed or as immersive as it was in Tokka. So yeah, Tokka Race Driver would 100% be the one that I would choose to be remastered. I'd love to see the series come back in that style. I don't think that's ever going to happen, sadly. I imagine trying to get the licenses for all those different championships in one game would be a nightmare nowadays. But yeah, that would be the one that I would pick. A kind of a sub question from this one. Quite a few people asked was what was my first racing game or first memory of racing games and so on. And I mean, there's a few that I remember early on. There was a Network Q rally game that I had that was slightly predated the Colin McRae rally games that I would have played. But even earlier than that... Oh, there's also Grand Prix... Ooh, what Grand Prix was it? Grand Prix 2? I had? Maybe. I've got a disc for Grand Prix 4 that I really want to play because the mods for it are amazing, but I can never get my steering wheel to work with it. If I can ever get that happen, there'll be a cool video or few on the mods, because Grand Prix 4 is an amazing, amazing game. Amazing simulator, if you like, for Formula 1. That's got like... Okay, we'll go a bit of a tangent. Sure, why not? Q&A video, I can do that. I really fondly remember whichever Grand Prix is either 1 or 2 I had. I really, really vividly remember this game because your cars could have random mechanical failures. And I remember 2 races on this game. And this was me when I was very, very young. I don't even know how old I would have been. I remember 2 races. I remember a race at Canada, and I remember a race in France at Manicure. Because the French race, I had a gearbox issue with the car that meant it wouldn't select, I can't remember what gear, but it wouldn't go into gears properly. And like halfway through the race, doing relatively well, and the car starts dying. And Canada, I remember because I was leading the race, and the engine blew up with about 3 laps to go. Now, I know to some people those would be very annoying failures because they're not technically your fault. You know, not your fault the engine blew up, not your fault the gearbox went, because back then the game didn't have, you know, it didn't have crazy levels of simulation to do like wear and tear on parts. It was just like a small percentage chance. I think like the higher team you drove for, the less chance it was, that sort of thing. But I remember those 2 races more than any other race in that game because weird things happened. Because I was having to manage a gearbox problem. I was having to manage, or the engine blew up while I was leading and all of that kind of thing. And that's, yeah, I love that about that game. I mean, it was a very good game, again, for the era. But the very, very first game that I remember playing was Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge? Lotus Turbo Challenge? I think it was Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge. And this is a really old game now. Well done if you remember this game without having to go onto Google to find it. My dad had it on early PCs and everything. And I can still remember like driving. It was one of those, I mean, like the arcadey games where you have like the car that moves across the bottom of the screen on the road coming towards you. But I remember being able to select the cars. You could select the weather. You could have it in the snow and that kind of thing. And I must have been, I don't know. Actually, I genuinely don't know how old I was, like 2 or 3 or something. And I can still picture this game, playing it. Okay, I might be a bit older than I'm picturing, but I can still picture this little Lotus racing game going on. So that is, I tried to find a working version of it, but I can never get it working, because I'd love to do a video on it if I can ever. If anyone knows how to find a working version of that, let me know, because that would be really cool to do. So yeah, there we go. That was my first racing game experience, and first that I remember as well. Our next question from Alexander Swords was asking, what sort of games are easiest to make content with, and what sort of advice would you have to developers for making games sort of easier for this? My simple answer to this one is give me as much freedom as you can. Okay, do not have restrictions on what I can do with cars or tracks or so on, because as soon as you start not at that, for example, I'll give Project Cars, let's say, as an example. If I want to do something silly on that game, there's quite a lot of options you can do with that. But let's say I want to try and drive a Formula 1 car around a go-kart track. The game, I can't remember, it's been a long time since I've played. I think there was a way to rig it, but the game might not let you select that. Like Gran Turismo 6 wouldn't let you drive cars on the indoor go-kart tracks or something. And to me, that's bad. I want the options to be able to do something stupid, because that's the joy of a video game. At the end of the day, I can go onto a game and do something stupid, because it doesn't matter if I wreck a car or a Formula 1 car, whereas in real life, you can't go and take a Formula 1 car around an indoor go-kart track, for good reasons, of course. But the games that are easiest to make content on, and for me the most fun to make content on, are the games that give me as much freedom as possible. It's why I like making videos on Forza games, like on Motorsport and Horizon 4, because I can put silly engines in silly cars, and we can do racing with vehicles that shouldn't be raced together. Yes, don't get me wrong, I love doing sim racing stuff, but for me, the fun is not necessarily driving a field of GT3 cars. The fun is, let's drive a bunch of random crap that we've thrown together that's somehow vaguely equal, that something's got a Viper engine in it that shouldn't have a Viper engine in it, and something's got a huge amount of grip from front-wheel drive hatchback with a silly... just give me freedom to do what I want. Give me freedom to be as mad as I can, because the more options you give me, the crazier I can go with the ideas. So, yeah, don't give restrictions, or give as fewer restrictions as possible. Of course, there's got to be some restrictions, but yeah, give us as much freedom as possible in terms of a content creation side, standpoint. Give as much freedom as possible to do this. And if you want to have a more structured game, I get that, of course, more structured races, fair enough. You can have that, and then you can also have an option, somewhere to go wild if you want. If you want to keep more realistic races in one part, go for it, but have an option to go and have some wacky, crazy stuff. So, yeah, things like Just Cause are a great example of let's just throw a million ideas out there, give you a massive world, go do what you want. I love the Just Cause game. Again, a shame the videos on that stuff never really do particularly well, because the ability to fart around with balloons and boosters and create complete carnage is wonderful on that one. So, yeah, as much freedom as possible is the way to go, essentially. Next question, again, this in various guises, in various wordings, but would I travel to races outside of Europe? Often asking about America, of course, because yes, I am a Brit who absolutely loves oval racing. I love NASCAR. I've been watching that for the last good few years now, actually. I really, really enjoy oval racing. Yes, I would absolutely love to. I don't know when I might get a chance. Okay, travel's a bit messed up at the moment, but if we take that out of the equation, I don't know when I might get to. But yeah, I'd absolutely love to go to races over in the States. I particularly want to go to Bristol. I want to go watch the oval racing at Bristol, extra especially if they have a dirt race there continuing. I really want to go watch the dirt race at Bristol, because the short course races are mad. Bristol is mad to begin with, and then add dirt in the mix, and yes please. Yeah, I'd love to go and watch oval racing. I'd love to go the other side of the world and go watch V8 Supercars, because that's another one of my favourite racing series. So yeah, 100% I would love to. I hope to, but there's no immediate plans on that side at the moment. But yeah, hopefully one day. It's one of those one-day things I would like to. A slight sub-question of that one, I did see somebody ask who is my favourite NASCAR driver, because I have talked about being a fan of the sport, of the racing for a while. I am a Truex fan. I kind of talked about this a little bit before, but basically I do this thing whenever I start watching a motorsport, or I start watching a series that I've never watched before. After the first few races, you'll find drivers you like or you dislike, and so on. And my favourite driver will normally be a driver who is driving an underdog car, who is doing way better than they should. And when I started watching NASCAR, the first season that I watched it, Truex was in the Furniture Row car that was supposed to be crap, but was actually starting to be competitive. I don't think he'd won with that team at that point. I know he got a couple of wins. I actually later watched a video that's like the history of Truex, and it's incredible that he managed to do what he did. But so, I didn't know that at the time I started watching, but he was driving a bit of an underdog car that was actually suddenly starting to do well, was starting to run towards the front. And then he started winning. And it's like, oh crap, this is actually really exciting, because this team that should never be winning is actually now starting to win. Now he drives for one of the big teams, and I'm still going to support Truex. But yeah, I do that, and the same with V8 Supercars. When I started watching, Van Gisbergen was driving a Ford and was incredibly exciting, and every so often did ridiculous stuff with the Ford, and then started winning. Now drives for Red Bull, which is a bit of a shame. McLaughlin was doing that with a Volvo. And my two favourite V8 Supercar drivers were, yeah, it's essentially the same sort of story. Now I've started watching IndyCar this year, mostly because McLaughlin's now driving in there, so I'm supporting McLaughlin. I kind of like to see Grosjean do well also, but so yeah, that seems to be just a tradition. It's not like an intentional thing I do either, but I go into motorsport, and that's what I end up doing. So there we go. Yeah, so Truex would be my favourite of the NASCAR drivers. I do not like Logano, as many people would agree. A very quick driver, don't get me wrong, but a very punchable face. And just, no, I don't like Logano. Nothing to do with Martinsville either. I didn't like him before that. Next question. Ranger of the North asking, this is an interesting one. What was the first car poster I had on my wall? I think it might actually still be at my parents' house somewhere. I think I've still kept it. I don't know. I hope so. Certainly the first one that I remember. I don't know if it is the very first one I ever had. But the first one that I remember, the one that most vividly springs to mind, was a Porsche 911. It would be a 996. 911 that it was grey. It was on like a bluey, purpley background, like a big press photo, if you like. It wasn't like a GT whatever one. I think it was a Carrera 4S, something along those lines. Maybe not even 4S. I don't remember exactly. I know it had Carrera written on the poster, but that was the first poster that I remember that I had on my wall. I had it on my wall for ages as well. For a long time, the 911 was my favourite car. They since subsequently changed and ended up all American. I can blame. Okay, I think I thought about this actually briefly with the the Chaos Police video. The reason I like American cars is because of one very specific Dodge Viper that I saw when I was a kid. In England, when you grow up, but in England, growing as a kid, at the time I did, being a car person, you didn't hear about American cars. Full stop. You just didn't. They just weren't a thing. You didn't see them over here. They weren't talked about. You just didn't know anything really about them. So you hear about Ferrari and Lamborghini and Porsche and all of those sort of cars, but American vehicles you never saw. And I still remember to this day the place and where it was going. I was, my parents' car going somewhere, and a blue Viper with white stripes was driving past, and I'd never seen anything like it or heard anything like it before. It was just ridiculous, incredible car, and as soon as I'd seen that car, I then wanted to know about American cars. And then once I learned about the Viper, then learn about the classic muscle cars and so on and so forth. It gradually changed until my favourite car ended up being the Shelby Daytona, which is also blue and white stripes. But the very first poster I had, Porsche 911, and then gradually tastes moved. I still do love the 911, don't get me wrong, but tastes gradually moved off towards the American cars, thanks to one specific Dodge Viper. So there we go. Happened to be the right place at the right time. Next question from Muro. I don't know if I'm pronouncing names correctly. I apologise. I will probably get them wrong. If you've watched my videos for long enough, you're also kind of expecting that, so sorry. I was going to my favourite BTCC car. My favourite BTCC car is actually possibly one of my favourite race cars of all time. And that is the Super Touring Mondeo, the ST200 Mondeo. Specifically in that, was it Rapid Fit, the blue and yellow livery one? That is still probably one of my favourite liveries of all time. Maybe the Jaguar Formula 1 car is up there. The Jaguar Formula 1 car looked amazing. It was crap, but it looked fantastic. But I still think even then, that blue and yellow Mondeo is the best looking livery on... I would say one of the best looking race cars ever. Okay, I say it's a specific taste if you like, but touring cars are great, and that is to me the best looking touring car ever. So yeah, that one has to be the favourite of the touring cars. Yes, that would even beat the big V8 supercars. They made some great looking cars, but sorry, the Super Touring Mondeo will still win on all of that one. Next, what have we got? I'm trying to go through in some sort of logical order. Let's go to a completely random question that I saw that I thought, you know what, screw it, we'll throw this one in. Ben was asking, what is my favourite Pokemon? We're completely off topic. Sure, I do like Pokemon. I mean, I grew up in the era where that was a very, very big thing. I try and play the games sometimes. There are many games around that I don't always have time to get around to, but yeah, I do like the Pokemon games and so on. But yeah, completely random question. My favourite Pokemon would be Onyx, which is probably not an answer anybody was expecting. I don't even know why either. Again, that was something that apparently I decided at some point a long time ago and it stuck. So yeah, now the stupid massive rock snake is my favourite of the Pokemon. There are some cool ones, don't get me wrong, some cool new ones and everything, but nope, still goes to the big rock snake. So there we go. Probably weren't expecting that question to get in here, but screw it, we'll go for some weird ones as well. Why not? Shall we go back to cars? Sure, why not? We'll go back to cars. The Wishinator was asking, what's one car I wish I'd bought? Oh, I guess the big one for me, the one more that I wish I had been able to buy than I guess one that I nearly bought but didn't. The one I wish I had been able to buy was a 205 GTI when they were not ridiculously expensive. I say many years ago when I was looking at buying a first car, I wanted a 205 GTI, as everyone did as a first car. Well, I'd say everyone did, but I wanted a 205 GTI as a first car. And insurance was too much on them, unfortunately. But actual prices of the cars, were, and this is what, 10 years ago, I think. The cost of the cars were about $4,000. Got you a nice one. You could get them for like $2,000. Now, now like $2,000 barely buys you a dead one. You know, you're looking at 8,000 to 10,000 for a half decent one. I wish I could have got one either when back then or when they were, you know, when I was a bit older, I could have afforded insurance. I wish I could have got one. I wish I had got one at that point, because they're an incredible investment, naturally. But it's not just that side of things. You know, I would love to own one because they are supposed to be amazing fun to drive, especially one of the best hot hatches ever made. And I've never actually owned a hot hatch. I kind of would like to. And if you're going to own one, I want to own that one. The Clio Williams I would like as well. Partially because I have a soft spot for the Clio, because the Mark 1 Clio was my first car. And the funny thing is, when I was looking at 205 GTIs, back when I was looking at, you know, that vague dream of one, a Clio Williams was like 10 grand. It's like, that's silly money for a hatchback. The 205 was only like 2 or 3 grand. Now the bloody Clio Williams is often the same price, if not cheaper, than a 205. So maybe I'll go for the Williams. But yeah, I do wish I'd been able to get one before they went stupid amounts of money. I'm not saying they're not worth it, but they're worth it whatever you're willing to pay at the end of the day. But yeah, I kind of wish I'd had one before they went insanely expensive on that one. But yeah, I can't do much. About that, other than hope prices come down at some point. I doubt it on that one. Speaking of real cars, I'm to Stig, and varying phrasings of this one, but asking, would I ever consider doing a real-life fail race car meet? Yes. I don't know how the hell I would ever organise one. I don't know where we'd be able to do one. I'm not going to give too much away, but there is some real-life stuff coming up soon, hopefully. I haven't checked the footage yet, so who knows how well it recorded. I might be saying a little fib here. There was something that was filmed that will be awesome. Hopefully the footage has come out well of some real-life stuff. But yes, a real-life car meet would be good fun to do. Would be great to do. I don't know how many people would get to it, where we could possibly do it. It's something I've wanted to do, but I'm not the best organiser when it comes to this sort of... I can organise gamey stuff, but yeah, real-life stuff I'm not the best with. So I don't know where I'd even begin to try and do something like that. It would be really, really cool to do. I mean, occasionally we go to Goodwood and so we'll meet up with people. Occasionally people find me at various motorsport events normally, where I end up get recognised in the big inverted commas, if you will. But yeah, it would be a really fun thing to do. I'd like to think that we could do it at some point. I don't know how to go about organising it, but it's not impossible that we will see something like that at some point. Or whether it be at like an actual car show and we just have a big group turn up. Maybe. I don't know how they all work, to be honest. I've not gone crazy in depth in towards it, but I would like to do it, basically. But I don't know the logistics, if you will. Next question comes from PJ Tierney. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names. Saying, would I want to try more sort of esports events following the World Rallycross thing that I did last year? Yes. I really, really enjoyed the World Rallycross event. So for those that might not have seen it last year, well, no Motorsport was going on. A lot of racing championships were running esports events. V8 Supercars had an amazing series go on. NASCAR ran some. Formula 1 had their one, and the World Rallycross had an esport event, which I was invited to and competed in that one. I did quite well. I was the only one who was willing to represent Audi. I got close. I got so close to getting an Audi into the final. Had some amazing battles in that one. Had some. I mean, one of the races I was battling side by side with Shane Van Gisbergen, who is probably my favourite driver in the world, and that to me is insane that I'm doing that stuff. That was a really, really cool event. I was really, really glad to take part in it. Really glad to be invited even to that one. Had an awful lot of fun with it, and yes, I do like that kind of racing. Not all the time. I would like to try, and again, this does lead on to, there is an idea that I'm kind of working on a little bit. I haven't quite had the time. It's typical. As soon as I start working on one of these slightly more complicated ideas, stuff happens and I just can't. I end up getting really busy and I just can't quite find the time to sort it out. But in terms of sim racing, I am looking at doing a bit more of it than I have done in the past. How much of that goes into videos, quite how it goes, I don't know. That'll depend on how well stuff does on YouTube, how the algorithm treats that kind of content, and, you know, how, let's say, how I end up approaching it if people enjoy that kind of video. If it does get recommended to them, or shown to them, or how the bloody hell YouTube works. I do like that kind of racing. I mean, I love the World Rallycross events. I was actually very competitive in that one for somebody who'd not really done that sort of driving before and was on a controller against all these actual Rallycross drivers in their fancy sim rigs and everything. Yeah, if I can find stuff that I'm competitive with and can have some fun racing with, I don't want to sit around driving for 2 hours, maybe seeing 1 or 2 cars. That is sometimes what happens. It also happens in real life motorsport as well. That's not my sort of racing, but the World Rallycross, that format of competition is great because they're quick fire rounds. It's always exciting, and if you do end up in no man's land, it's only a short race, you know. You get a bunch of races, so that format I think works very well for me personally. But yes, certainly there is potential. I do enjoy the more serious level of competition. I mean, you'll see the background of this was Gran Turismo Sport stuff. I'm not great at Gran Turismo Sport, but these races that we've got going on were very good fun to take part in if you can get the right lobby, right sort of cars and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, may see some more sim racing stuff, some more, let's say, serious competition. I mean, I think for me, in some ways, I'm more likely to end up as a commentator for that side of things than an actual competitor. I'm quick, but I would need a lot of practice, and I don't know whether I have commitment / the time to get to the level required. And, you know, I haven't a level of skill, if you like, but I'm certainly nowhere near competing at the top. And it would take an awful lot of practice, an awful lot of time, and I don't know whether I could do it. But yeah, I certainly have got more interest in it from those sort of periods of events, and yeah, there is certainly potential for some more sim racing stuff, and to kind of see how it goes with that. The final question, I'm going to end on a random question, because I say why not. Kyle Pennypacker was asking about would I ever consider owning a bird of prey, because I've talked about this before. I used to work at a bird of prey centre, and if you've watched my automation videos, I say sneaky, but all my automation cars were named after various birds of prey. I do very, very much like. I loved working with birds of prey. It's a fantastic, I say, experience, if you will, training and sort of taking care of them. And Carl's asking, yeah, what would I own? Would I own one, and so on, as a pet? They're an unusual. They're not a normal kind of pet, but you certainly can do it. I would love to. It's been a long time since I've done anything with them, so I would. You technically don't need a. Well, you didn't. I don't know whether you still do now, because it was many years ago. You didn't need a license for them, but you may do now. You certainly should do. If you don't, you certainly should do. And I would definitely, get plenty of training before I went down this avenue again. Because yeah, at the end of the day, they can be quite dangerous. Certainly, some of the eagles and so on could be. If I was to get one, I would love to have a Harris Hawk. Some of you may know what that is. A lot of you probably won't know what this is, but it is an incredibly intelligent bird. The Harris Hawk is relatively easy to train. They actually quite good living in groups, because I think in the wild they tend to live in packs, which is unusual for birds of prey. And yeah, because they're so intelligent, they're actually can be quite affectionate. They are very easy to train. They're a good kind of a beginner bird, if you will, to learn as well alongside. And yeah, they are wonderful. They're wonderful. Never had a problem with one of those. Buzzards can be a pain in the arse. Owls are very silly. Owls are not very clever. They look pretty, but they're not very clever at all. I don't have much experience with the eagles, so I wouldn't be able to say much with those. Falcons are very difficult to train, because you got to. I could go on and we could talk about birds of prey for a long time, but the way you train, the way you fly falcons and kestrels is different. Most birds you'll sort of have like a big leather glove on that they'll sit on, and most birds will fly to that and they'll sit on that and then they'll fly back somewhere and they'll just go backwards and forwards. Whereas falcons and kestrels, you fly them differently. You kind of send them off and they'll fly around, and you have like a lure, it's basically like a pouch on an end of a string that you spin around very quickly, and as the birds like dive down to try and grab it, you kind of like throw it in front and then pull it back. So they kind of like dive and grab at it, and you try and pull it out of the way at the last second, so they'll keep going around. That's very difficult to do, and I started learning it, but I never quite mastered it. It's a very, very difficult skill to learn, and that's tricky. So while I love falcons, they're incredible animals, especially of course the peregrine falcon, that is very fast. Yeah, they're very, very difficult to train, and that takes a lot of skill. So yeah, Harris Hawk would be where I would go with that one. And there we go. That is a random selection of questions. I hope you found this interesting. I went through all sorts of different bits and pieces. I apologise I can't answer every single question, and there was so many. So I tried to kind of group stuff together as best I could with some of the various questions and all that. Yeah, I hope this has been interesting. Just rambling about stuff. Really, I hope you've enjoyed this week. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun filming this week's content, going back to some old series. I mean, the Survive the Hunt, I liked the format. I think that format might actually, while it was done as a throwback format, I think it actually worked better than the original, or the format we had been running. So we may well see some more of that format going forward. I do apologise, there was supposed to be an overtaking challenge. Unfortunately, I've had some tech issues getting all of that working. That will be coming out next week. It was on Autumn of Blistered 2. That was supposed to happen, because that was another very, very long-running series I had. Which I do enjoy filming them, but yeah, some last-minute tech issues meant I've had to redo everything, and yeah, so that shall be out. That shall be out soon. It will be a slightly extended throwback week, if you will. But there we go. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and of course, thank you all who have watched this channel for many years, and if you only just discovered it and everything. Yeah, thank you for sticking with it. I hope you are enjoying the random nonsense that we somehow manage to come up with from time to time. That is going to be it for today. Until next time, a goodbye.